Bon après-midi à tout le monde. Je vais faire une petite introduction à cet après-midi.
Oui, de toute façon, elle est obligée de traduire pour lui.
Afin de transmettre des enseignements.
Elle est obligée de traduire pour lui après.
J'ai allumé ton micro quand même au cas où.
Merci.
Karmapa a veillé à ce que Karmapa reçoive non seulement l'intégralité des transmissions de pratiques associées à l'incarnation, comme son éminence, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. Il est alors âgé de 81 ans lorsqu'il se rend par Népal en France à la requête de Karmapa afin de conférer à Karmapa en mémoire la transmission des initiations du Dhagpo Kagyu Ling, la collection de tous les sadhanas. Aujourd'hui, Dhongtsang Shabdrung Rinpoche est à Dhagpo cette semaine pour terminer son explication du Namche Yeshe qu'il a conclu ce matin. Et faisant lui-même partie de la lignée Sakya, et ayant connu son éminence Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, il a accepté de nous partager quelques mots sur son enseignement. Donc merci beaucoup Rinpoche de votre présence et de ce partage. So in English, the year 2025 marks the 50th anniversary of Dhagpo Kagyu Ling. Every month this year, we highlight milestones that planted the seeds of transmissions, seeds of explanations, and seeds of blessings.
Okay.
On April 6, 2000, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, one of the most eminent Sakya masters of the 20th century, is welcomed to Dhagpo Kagyu Ling in order to transmit teachings to Chögyé Dorjé, His Holiness the 17th Gyero Karmapa. Kunzig Shamarpa took care that Karmapa received not only the entirety of the transmissions and practices associated with the Karma Kagyu lineage, but also those associated with other lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, from the most eminent masters who held them, such as His Eminence Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. He was 81 years old when he visited France from Nepal at Shamarpa's request, in order to confer the transmission of the Druptap Kundu empowerments, the collection of all sadhanas, to Karmapa during 1 month. So today, Dhongtsang Shabdrung Rinpoche, you are in Dhagpo this week to complete your explanation of the Namche Yeshe, and also as part of the Sakya lineage yourself,
Okay.
and having known His Eminence, you have agreed to share with us a few words about this eminent master. So for that, thank you very much, Rinpoche, for your presence and for sharing with us.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll start now. Okay, so, well, bon après-midi, everybody. Bon après-midi. And then at the very beginning, that I would like to say it's I feel like very humbled and honored together to talk about like such a great master like His Eminence Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. And so he's like one of my main root guru for myself. So So it's like an special event for the 50th year of Dhagpo Kagyu Ling. So I'm very happy to share so that that quality of that the great master, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche.
Pour commencer, je voudrais vous dire que je me sens très, très humble et très honorée aujourd'hui de parler, qu'on m'ait demandé de parler d'un maître si éminent, aussi éminent que Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. Son éminence Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche était un de mes maîtres racines. Donc aujourd'hui, c'est un événement particulier en lien avec les 50 ans de Dhagpo Kagyu Ling et je suis très heureux de partager avec vous les qualités de ce grand maître qui était Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche.
As in Tantra, so it has said Chobatam je pangne laman choba chawaji. It's so you can leave all the offering and make offering to the Guru. So in a Tantra it has mentioned that. So when we are saying that, so and especially when we are remembering the quality of the Gurus. So this is also one of the offering. So due to that, so I'm feeling very blessed and to talk about it.
Contexte du Vajrayana, des Tantras, il est expliqué que nous pouvons abandonner toute offrande et faire des offrandes uniquement à notre lama, rassembler toutes nos offrandes et les faire à notre lama. Et particulièrement quand on se souvient des qualités de nos maîtres, de notre maître, le fait de se souvenir des qualités de notre maître est une offrande en elle-même. Donc c'est pourquoi aujourd'hui, je me sens extrêmement chanceux, fortuné de pouvoir parler des qualités de Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche.
So maybe I will start with the supplication prayer, short of supplication prayer of His Eminence Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche.
Je propose de commencer avec je vais commencer moi-même avec une prière adressée, donc une
Jita karsara da ngaran soga de da Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche gaji namtar da shugondo gasala tine de mangbochige tine da jita kalawore njungkhungdo kalaw khungdo dosji dusamji shebayanas jita ngaran soga tine da Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche de kalawore de sarabege tiba rediyores kar sarba jita sajala 사자 모르바는 살바 지단 종발은 시스템에서 시기요레스 되게나네 서베게 때 라마 소운도 때 Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche 시스템에서 레디여버스
So to briefly introduce His Eminence Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, I base myself on several sources. So I summarized what I was able to find, what I was able to read, and what I was able to know. And so I would like to begin by saying that Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche was the holder of the throne, the head, if you wish, of the Tsarpa lineage. The Tsarpa lineage is with the Sakya lineage, the Nyor lineage, and the Dzong lineage, the four branches of what we call the Sakya school today. The principal master, the holder of the lineage, of the Tsarpa lineage, was Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche.
Tene ta Dhagpo gala ta Dhagpo Tsarpe gaji korla shuya ngela Dhagpo kalawara Tsarpe di tene Sakya gaji khontu toba de yoras Sakya khontu toba induka sule chidang karsara de Sakya de ta chidang kalawara tene tati ma chungdang dawo xeba yana chungdang dawo xeba induka sule tene dungju de la tene kalawara sencho sumden shugares sencho sum tendes kala sencho sum nane Dhagpo de karsara tene Sakya gaji dungju dawo Dhagpo de özel layne ma chebaji tendes lojunana tendes sungu yores özel lay dungs.
So before going into more precise detail on the Tsarpa lineage, we should know that the Tsarpa lineage belongs to the Sakya school, to the lineage, the Sakya lineage. So where does the Sakya lineage come from? The Sakya lineage comes from a lineage that has three aspects. The three aspects are what give the Sakya lineage three big names, the three eminent names of the Sakya lineage. The first aspect of this lineage is the divine lineage of clarity and luminosity.
Dhagpo de ta hlande ma che ondo chidang te pinsum de hla pinsum yosares namla jiring da yuring da usela tenege chidang pinja stumji hlayune ma phebaye ke tendes de loju yosares tisum ge nanen ti pinja chungwa de tene da miyula jugne tene ma ta dungju de cheba de la tene karsere de özel dung tendes cheba yosares chungwa de ya usela.
It is said that the Sakya lineage comes first from a divine lineage. At the origin of this divine lineage, there are three gods, three celestial gods, who are from the same family. The first is named Chiring, the second Yuring, and the third Use. And it is from the third, who was the youngest, that the divine lineage of clarity and luminosity descends. It descends from this third.
Tene yabangjes mara de yabangje mara de yabangje de yabangje ge tene simbo jaring tramela de seba da tuboshone seba la tene tige de da kalawara tige jamde kapde yendodo tige kala jamde kable yendora tene te ni ge setla tene kyungi paru de chewa kyun paru che tendes ming ta wares.
So, descending from this divine lineage of clarity and luminosity that comes from this third god, the youngest one, the youngest of the three brothers, Use. Then there is the descendant of Use, whose name is Yapang Kye. And one day, he had to subjugate a demon whose name was Karing Tragame. And after having done this and eliminated the demon, he took his spouse, his wife, as his spouse, and her name was Yadruk Silima. And so together with the wife of this demon, he had a son who was named Kun Barkye, literally someone who was born from a warrior, someone who was born in the midst of a fight, of a dispute. And so from there, the Sakya lineage also acquired as a main name, the name of the son, Kun. And the Sakya lineage from that moment on was known as the warrior lineage.
네, 큰큰쇼 잡아 봐도라. 텐데스 쳔바레스. 큰큰쇼 잡아. 네, 큰큰쇼 잡어테 콩다 칼 트라오글 lumbal한 때다 lum베게 밍에사다스 트라오 lum바나라 주드베카솔라. 네, 금바테게 세네파 제운도카솔라. 네, 파조초라 리 칼라와라 리뱀볼라지 테가징 ndamne tin kalawa sakarbo tin pe num kalawara te kalawar pe numcha yo bandaw tendege yesunne chupabde bandaw tende lassobege ne tashibe tanse pe kalawara tadan sema yago tende zipoin sadas ti zemunduka so tatte tine kankujo jaboge koran ke chowo koran pinja chela tatte tende shubain sadas kal tende shunduka so tange pagela kalawar gomba jagui tende shuduka so le ne kori pinja che atike degree sone nawan nangbain sadas chowo ne pinja che Sure, elder brother.
And then the lineage continued until reaching the one known as Kun Kunchok Gyalpo. And Kun Kunchok Gyalpo resided in the Drao region. And one day, he was at the top of a mountain where his monastery stood, and he was looking afar, and he saw at the foot of a big mountain, he saw that the earth, the land, was particularly white, and it looked really fertile. And on the right-hand side of this mountain, and of this fertile white land, there was a river running through. And he also saw very auspicious, favorable signs at the same time. And so seeing this, he asked the permission, the authorization from his older brother, whose name was Jowo, who gave it, to actually buy the land from the owner of this land. And at this on this site, he established the Sakya monastery. So Kun Kunchok Gyalpo at the time was 40 years old. and it was the year 1073.
Chögyé Mingde the Sakya kala Mingde reso the Sakya wo tela chabe jumsen la tina Sakya student and rest Mingde toso bo inside this. But Sakya wo lana is like kind of gray kind of no gray gray those kala pangdo the shara mesa mejo.
So when we speak about the Sakya lineage comes from this site where the first Sakya monastery was established, the first monastery of the lineage. And this site where the land was like a light gray color. Sa means earth, and kya means the color of the earth, this kind of light gray.
Atisha ya tiduka sole nguma tema tiduka sole khon phone ya wine ya phendo duka sole ti saja de kala saja ke saja de ziun duka sole maombo ndela tinchida ngana soge jerezi dang tin kala chana doja dan jambe yeng tuba tente phsare sone tende ka lungten ya nang yoba reste tida joji ka lungten ya yode ba res.
And regarding this site, Atisha had been there in the past. The eminent Atisha had gone to this place and had predicted that this site, this place, was going to welcome great bodhisattvas, that great bodhisattvas would emerge from this site, like Chenrezig, Vajrapani. So he had made predictions about this monastery.
Jigdon the ngoto jilon da wo jan je shibaina kala jigdon jeme dunju tensum yemen da wala jigdon jeme dunju tensum like 1073 around like 073 tin tiduga solende kala wata sajage de gomba de chat tabianda tiduga sango tubande kwenkunchu jaboge chat ta shabares.
And so in 1073, Kun Kunchok Gyalpo established the Sakya monastery and thus established the beginnings of this great lineage.
Tini kalau sajin losa jansu shuede ta jidang kalau tsarbege ta lama tangbo dawde tini ta kal sajin losa jansu shugu yoras.
The lineage continued until a great master who was the first master of the Tsar lineage. We had said that in the Sakya lineage there were 4 branches, and so this is the Tsar branch of the Sakya lineage. And the first master of this Tsar lineage was the venerable and illustrious Sarchen Losel Gyamtso.
자가르 게로베 티네 줍신 베로바다 벽에 티네 케바 침보 게라 침보 부드러진 진도 특속에 다 제와 임반다고 됐다 갈송소 예와 인사데스.
Et il est dit que
It is said that this great master, Sarchen Losel Gyamtso, is a reincarnation of many great masters, in particular the great Indian accomplished one, Virupa, and the omniscient Tibetan master named Bhutan Rinpoche.
Karsarete, Karsachin Losa Jamso de, Chitan Kalangaranto, the Chikdongabja, Kalawar, Chikdongabja, Yemela, Tindes, Kalawar, paved the way inside. Tindega to the la, Tine Kalawar, Sangi Chola, Tine Mankar, Kalamugulungs, Tindes, Lumburg meaning the Lamugulungs, the Tela Contrumbo inside.
And so the Venerable Sarchen Losel Gyamtso was born into the world in 1502 in the Tsong region in a place named Mankar Mugu Lungdu.
Yemela, the Gonuchuru Yemela, Tineta, Kalawara, Jamakunjaniba, Tine Kalawara, Gendunjan Sokundune, the Gisok Dombaje, Tine Gisok Dombajene, the Tigijela, Tine Sanktashi Tela, Tine Kalawar, Senior to Peja, Tine Jana Wayansadas.
And so then at 16 years old, Sarchen Losel Gyamtso received the vows of novice monk from the second Dalai Lama named Gendun Gyatso. And then he went to study philosophy, mainly Sutrayana, at Tashilumpo.
Tendetape Kalawar, Keba Chembo, Tendes, Chaba Insadas. In the Keba Chembo, Tende Chanaya, Tinia, Sosogaji, the Melum, the Hungi Melum, the Sosogi Leta, Joyoba, Hungi Melam, the Tendega Toble, Tini and Cheta, Tini Kalawar, and the Dorimba Kumban Chembos, Tene De Kongin, Saint Koba Samge, Tini Kalawar, Pe, Teba Chembo, Tendes, Kalawar, Teba Shushembo, and the Cheba Insadas.
So Sarchen Losel Gyamtso studied Sutrayana at Tashilumpo and became a very great scholar, very erudite. And thanks to the actions that he accomplished in the past and to his aspirations, he was filled with an unshakable confidence in a very great accomplished master known as Dorjé. And just hearing his name, Sarchen Losel Gyamtso felt a very, very deep confidence as soon as he heard the name of Dorjé.
Sanjin Korwan Jig last of one dog attended. Sanjin Korwan Jig down, Tintegana Jagarge and Trupto down, Pugin Kevin Mamboge, Jeva Tomama, the Jevin Toma Mambo Junior, the paper test, the Kaloshiso Yoba inside.
Il est dit que
said that the great accomplished one, Dorjé, was considered as an emanation of the seventh Buddha, Krakuchanda, and that he was also the reincarnation of many scholars and both Indian and Tibetan scholars.
The Consajala Juguyo Sadas, Sajala. The Consajala Judi Yodukasola, Tini Konla, Tini Kalon, Tin Kobatsamge, Numage, Molamge, Topge, Tebashu Chambuche, Tetsam Matseba, Tini Dojan Nanjurmage, Lungtinia Yoga, Lungtian Peba in Sadas, Tindi Indukasola, Tini Lungtin Peba Latene, Tini the Sajala, Tini the Kawutazons Yosadas. Tela Pevne, Tini Kalo Dorimba Kumban Chimbok in Dune, Tini Lamde, Tini the Ninjuge, Semajitan Tembege, Tini Lamde, the Chafan Semba inside.
So at this time, the Venerable Dorjé lived in Sakya, And having heard his name, Tsarchen Losel Gyamtso felt an immense confidence, and he was also guided by a prophecy that was given to him by Vajrayogini herself. And thanks to these two conditions, the great confidence he had developed in Dorjé and to the prophecy of Vajrayogini, he went to Sakya to meet Dorjé. And in the presence of the Venerable Dorjé, he received many teachings, he listened, he reflected, and he familiarized himself with inconceivable instructions, vast and profound, all stemming from the oral transmission of explanations from master to disciple on the path and the fruit.
Sene, Mambo Sene, Tine Kalora, Yamlin Tarchimba Nane, the Tubi Compound Tumbola, Tine Shegwa Insides.
And not only that, he also received many empowerments from Dorjé and put this into practice and reached the state of supreme accomplishment.
But combat in the Insides, and that Tamuche like you said, Comba. That Tamuche. That Tamuche like Gomba you said, the Kurirange Chata Shaju, the Gombati Insides.
So the monastery, Tsarpen Losel Gyamtso's monastery, Dar Damoche.
Tukse, Kalaware, the Mixed Tarjan Losa Janso, Tukise, the Jayan Chense Wonchu, Shubajo Sares. That Tenema, that Kalaware, the Loma Jigni Jipa, Lomi Jupa Parmache, but the rest pay on Ducasole. Tene, the Kalaware, Shalu Kimbo, Jesun Cherub Chujes, Jesun Cherub Chuje. Take a partola, Tine, Jeda Kalasara, Tine Kalandar Tamuche, the Shalunda, and Soge La, Tin Kalaware, Tine Zondo, Zeba in the Jangwa Insides, Zeba Jangwa Insides. Activity, and Jedan Kalandar Tamuche, Dan Tezola, Zeba Jangwa Insides. Shalu, Jedanya Shalula, Lumboyora, Tiwala.
Okay.
And so then Tsarchen Losel Gyamtso had a son of heart named Jamyang Khyentse Wangchuk, and after him maintained the lineage of transmission. So it's an uninterrupted lineage of disciples. And among these disciples, there was the Kempo of Shalu named Chetsun Sherab Chögyé. And so this uninterrupted lineage of master to disciple lived until Chetsun Kyenrab Chögyé lived in the monastery of Dar Damoche.
And Nalendala, Dente Shuba Insides, Nalendala, the Sowanda Wate, Nicolore, Digge, take also Lachida, Nalenda de Manyamcha, Dobegang Insides. Then Jeda Nalenda Laete, the Kunjerong Chimbuge, Chakta Shebe, Gumba, Tata Naran Suget, Sarbe Dansanda would see that Nalenda de, Tiduka Sole, the Calore, the Kunjerong Chimbo, Juba, Kerab, Dumbe Pardola, Tinkalore, 믹스가 살바단 저셔라 카메바 인서레스 디엔줄라 마 둠베디 날렌다게 캠보여라 캠보케라 둠베 파르돌라 네 믹스가 살베게 덴산다고 가이 인사마레스 인사마레스
Donc,
so Chetsun Khenrab Chögyé, who was dwelling in the monastery of Damoche, was invited to the monastery of Nalendra. And this monastery, the monastery of Nalendra, was a monastery that was established by Rumten Chedrak Chenrik. And then this monastery ran into some hardship, and its reputation kind of diminished over the years. Until the seventh holder of the throne of this monastery of Nalendra, who was also a great Khenpo, but who didn't belong to the Tsarpa lineage. Today, Nalendra has become the seat of the Tsarpa lineage, but at the time it was not the case. And so Chetsun Khenrab Chögyé was invited to Nalendra to, in a way, restore this monastery that had declined over the years.
냠찬다고도 송바인사데스 다 근데 냠찬도온도 네 다친 로더 잔센스 칼라 다친 로더 잔센은 드두갑슬라 예베 사자 코만다고도 코인사데스 드두갑슬라 예베 사자 텐진이라 되긴 센들란 다친 로더 잔센 슈바지사데스 잔센 데 공게 드닌 다던데 지둔 체럽 추제데 드니 칼날렌달라 pegore sune tene kanalenda la peba inseres nyamson nan peba inseres.
donc à l'époque,
And at the time, the monastery of Nalendra had run into some hardships, some difficulties, in particular linked to some epidemics in the region. And so the monastery really was going through hard times. And at the time, the Sakya Tridzin of the time, whose name was Dagchen Lodre Gyaltsen, asked Chetsun Khenrab Chögyé to come to Nalendra to take care of this monastery.
Nalendra gen kerap jebat kala Nalendra ge ta chiba jebate te tiduka inseres ta tinini ma zungte ni kala waredin parma chebate chembate dada ta ngarang so gen dada namtar shuya tininde ne jizu te ngato tijin ngawan cherap turdin lekshi janso konge tininde Nalendra ge chiba nishu tanga pati inseres nyanga pati.
Et donc, c'est alors que Chetsun Khenrab Chögyé, qui a donc été invité à Nalendra pour le restaurer, est devenu le huitième abbé ou le 8e Khenpo de Nalendra, le 8e détenteur du trône de Nalendra. Et cette lignée s'est poursuivie jusqu'au 25e, donc Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, dont nous parlons aujourd'hui, jusqu'au 25e donc abbé ou Khenpo de Nalendra, qui était donc l'éminent Chetsun Trichen Ngawang Khenrab Tupten Lekshi Gyamtso.
Eminent Trichen Langwan Kenrab Tupten Lekshik Yamso.
sarbe tibala do ko sala tinta jita tosji ha koyanda ujura sarbala de kandeji imenji ti ha koyagi chedolan tigaji kal background do tosji na tambo shebayis.
Donc,
So I allowed myself to explain this in order to help to situate the lineage, to situate the Tsarpa lineage in the Sakya lineage, to give you a little bit of context.
ngaranso ta ngawon cherap tupte leshi janzo khon ta nganaso gun tuyo do chebayna te shigatsege jidang shigatsege lonubla yebasa chila ne shalus lumbotna tumpoin sadas.
et donc,
And then Trichen Langwad Kenrab Tuptem Nikshigamso was born near Shigatse, southwest of Shigatse, named Shalu.
Jela jidang shalu kushange riks jidang kalawara de shalu kushange diklan jidang rik tombo rik chimbo do tige sadas.
concernant
And regarding his family tree, he belongs to the Shalu Kunsang family line. This is the family line of the maternal uncles of Shalu.
Sempyo de jituna de kala chege dungju jidang teya kalawara wese lai dung tinde yimba tindes de sungu sadas wese lai dung yimba.
et donc cette
And this family of maternal uncles of Shalu stems from a family lineage known as Che, named Che, and this lineage comes from the divine lineage of clarity and luminosity that we were speaking about at the very beginning. And so it's because this family lineage of maternal uncles belongs to this. That's why he's sometimes referred to as Che Tsun, because Che makes reference to his family lineage, his family tree, if you like.
Ling nge semo teya kala de chimsange mingi sadas chimyo dokar sta kalawara sengoma de chimyo dokar sadas. Teniga kona ba niga ya tinga nanso de kalawara kala zobo chembe zobo chenge chu nyamlin nangken tende nanjor ba tende sadas.
ensuite
So his father was named Sonam Sengye Wangchuk, and his mother was named Chidrol Kar, the daughter of Pelling, and both of them, mother and father, were yogis who practice Dzogchen, the great perfection.
Kalo chapo te lord tine peda jebe ge te jila tine kala torang ge tusola te kala shoge ge tusola tine kutamba insares ko.
Trichen Rinpoche
So Trichen Rinpoche was born at dawn of the 4th day of the 8th Tibetan month of the year of the metal monkey of the 15th cycle, so approximately in 1919.
Chungdu ge tendela tine de kunzang chime wangbo tende sta shugu yosares kunzang chime wangbo de sen solongken de sen nangkinte de cancer kinchi jambal nimbo get sen nangbo insares de cancer kinchi jambal nimbo te korige de insare aku insares.
Son nom.
So the name that was given to him at birth was Kunsang Chime Wangpo, and this name was given to him by his uncle, who was a great Kempo, an abbot, named Kangsar Jampal Ningpo.
Tegi jela tini kalawre gonlo duen samla tini duen samne te kori ga ji yaptang tini kori ge jimbo te binja cheade kumche cheade kalawre tarze ge ya kalawre shabdrung tini namka gunsang daya tin sades te khonsa ne te tindes ndilo tinde lawa in sades.
Ensuite, à partir.
And then from the time he was 7 years old, Trichen Rinpoche learned to read and write with his father and with his older brother, whose name was Dhagpo Shabdrung Namka Kunzong.
Nikala Jamian Kunga Timbe Jansen Shusa Konsane Negeniga Damba Yante Jeva in Sades, Geniga Damba. Gono Dun Samla.
Alors qu'il avait donc approximativement 7
About 7 years old, he also received the lay vows, the Genyen vows, from Tatsé Khenchen, the great Kempo, whose name was Jamyang Kunga Tenpe Gyaltsen.
Kalaware Nalenda ge ne kalaware de mixi chanzu tenzo tang kala chanzu tenzo ge tininde ta konlo chuge ka sola tin Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche wangbo shue tegaji tine kala tugu yangsi de la nenta te ngunzin nanga pewa insares tine ngunzin nanga yungdu ka sola tin teka sola tine jawa ta kalawara jawa kuntin choksompa tegaji ta chakdam te fil tende namne koso tine kalawara ngunzin chega pewa insares.
à l'âge de
When he was 10 years old, in 1929, several people responsible for the Nalendra monastery came to fetch Trichen Rinpoche, identifying him as the reincarnation of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche Wangpo. And so they arrived with the kind of presenting the seal of the 13th Dalai Lama, Tupten Gyamtso, identifying him as the reincarnation of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche Wangpo. And so they took him so that he would go to the monastery of Nalendra.
Et donc à partir de l'année 1931.
And so from 1931, Trichen Rinpoche lived in the Nalendra monastery.
Ensuite, alors qu'il avait 12 ans,
Years old, Trichen Rinpoche was enthroned, placed on the teaching throne of the great Rangton Shidrak Kunjik.
Holo doing yemene, Taji, Lojon Nane, Tini, Temaseba, Tini, Tajidan Konge, Lama Mambotin Nambo in Sarest, Wang Lung, the Kalmianga Shusadan, Tini, Lojon Nasa, Lama Mambotin Nambo in Sarest.
Ensuite,
And then he started his learning the rituals of different practices, and he started to receive transmissions, empowerments, explanations.
Nama Shubaina, Shun the Gasolatini, the Konga Choga Challenge out in the Zone out there, the Klamkinde, the Yongzi, and Kalakunga Championship, they get the Konga Choga Challenge out in the people inside us.
par exemple, pour donner
Example, to give a few examples of all that he received during his youth, under the guidance of Kunga Chöpel, he gradually started to learn rituals, practices.
Yubenane, the Lama Zodo Jigde, Tindi Sadas, Kinchin Lamalo do Jimbin Bushua, the Konga, the Lama Zodin Sadas, Zojik, Tinder in the Gasolatine, take a Gundula, Tin Konga, Hinzoga Damba, the Gelonka Dambaya, the Gunduni Shuba in Sadas. The Golon Yishu Tanis Capsula, the Gelonga Damba Shuba in Sadas.
à l'âge de
When he was 22 years old, he received the full ordination, the Gelong Baos, a fully ordained monk, from the great abbot, the Kempo, Nawang Lodro Chenpen Ningpo. And Nawang Lodro Chenpen Ningpo was one of his masters, one of his main teachers.
Il a également reçu
And he received from him the Gyude Kuntu, the collection of all the tantras.
Dami Podang, the Champion Jura, take us to Dami Podang, take Gundula, mixing marble costume dog, Tanzania, Shuba in Sadas.
ensuite
And then he received from a holder of the Drulma Palace, a sub the Drulpo Kapgunche. It's a sub branch of the Sakya, and from him he received the cycle of the three reds, the Marpo Kursum,
ensuite il a
and he also received from a great Kampo named Kansar Jamyang Ningpo. It was his uncle. It was the one who gave him his name, his uncle. So from his uncle, he received the Chuchen Kabum, the complete works of the great editor, Sultrim Rinchen.
ensuite
Then, with Kempo Nyaklo Rinpoche, he studied grammar, poetry, the Vinaya, the Abhidharma, the middle way, the perfection of wisdom, and other topics, themes belonging to the Sutrayana.
Gombo tang, Tusulma tang, Namse land out, Tendege, ni Wang tang, Tini, Chi tang, Jenang tang, Tuzo, Pemang was in number inside us.
Il a également reçu de Zimok Rinpoche 2 fois, à 2 reprises, les explications données de maître à disciple portant sur le chemin et le fruit. Il a reçu.
He also received from him the transmission of complete works of the great Nor, the cycle of teachings of the major and minor protectors, the cycle of teachings on Dusolma and Namse, with empowerments, blessings, explanations, and transmissions.
Hindi Yabji Layanda, Lamrege, Kalora, Kaladasiki, Jubalayanda, Tendegeta, Wanda, Jubat, Wanda Menga Mambochita, same number inside us, in the Church of Kunduni.
Ensuite,
and he also received from Chenki Chögyé Dru the 4 sections of Ningtik, the unique transmission of the path and the fruit, and many other teachings that he received, assimilated, and which he then gave very widely.
Donc, pour résumer,
So to summarize, we can say that his 3 main teachers were Zimok Rinpoche, Khenchen Nangwa Khyentse Chögyé Lodrö, and Khenchen Nangwang Lodrö Shenpen Ningpo. Those were his 3 main masters. So, of course, he received many other transmissions, empowerments from other masters.
충산네 세다 수문데 라얀다고다 체산네 다 제도제게 인현다고도 상마 다 예담 상마가 님바땅네 된데게 두번 tarchi 버튼데 남고인사다.
Alors non seulement
And not only did Trichen Rinpoche receive all these transmissions, all these empowerments, all these explanations, but he also put them into practice. He accomplished and reached the accomplishments successfully after having become engaged in different retreats, and during this time in retreat, he accomplished all the practices of all the yidams that had been transmitted to him, from the sadhana that combines Amitayus and Hayagriva, which is in a way the first that's done in retreat, until the recitations of the Vajra. So he accomplished all these successfully.
tosum gomsumge tine nyamlen tarchin batendes nangugu yewa inda gasura ta ti yenshe samage ta kalawata Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche korange tine nyamlen ta yigi jangyane zungde tine wang shuya ta menga shuya ta tine gom nyamlen chiya sangman tensa nangbo insa res.
It is explained that all the Buddhas and the great Bodhisattvas that all the great Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas obtain qualities, and that these qualities are first put to their own well-being on the path until the state of Buddha. The first step is to accomplish one's own well-being in order to be able to accomplish the being of others. So this is the state of Buddha. It is the perfect accomplishment of one's own well-being and that the well-being of others. So the first step is one's own well-being, and one has to engage in listening and reflection and becoming familiar with. And this is what Chögyé Trichen demonstrated with his life, because he received many transmissions and explanations. He put them into practice, he realized them, he actualized them. And then he started to accomplish the well-being of others.
Tine Chögyé larang tine kalawaran ta te nalenda ta Chögyé gomba tenso ga nangla tine lamde lobshe tendes lamde lobshe da soshe tendes sasums nangwa insares pyola tema sums nangwa insares pyola.
Donc
So he accomplished his own well-being, and then he engaged himself in activity for the well-being of others, an enlightened activity for the well-being of others. So at the age of 22, he started to give teachings, notably the explanations given from master to disciple on the path and the fruit. And he gave this at the Chögyé Palace at the monastery of Nalendra. And then he transmitted 3 times the explanations given from master to disciple and given in public on the path and the fruit.
Dencho kandu janso layanda wata jongju ge de nyason jongwe ju jingor junyi la so wanda wata tende ge ni juda wangchen tende menda wa tende jibju tam tende nangwa insade jibju le manga tende nangwa insade.
Il a également
transmitted the Kalachakra in the tradition, the Bhutan tradition. He transmitted the ocean of Dakinis of Chakrasamvara, the 12 mandalas of the Purification Tantra, and more than 40 major empowerments of the different classes of tantras.
il a donné
on many times he gave the instructions on Nara Kachoma, Vajrayogini, and oral explanations on the Madhyaka Vatara. And so we can say that he widely, extensively turned the wheel of Dharma.
콜로숨게 차와 자신보튼 데스 남과인사레스.
En même temps,
And so at the same time, when he was giving all these teaching, he invested in restoring Nalendra, notably building a dome in gold and copper for the main building, and to place a wheel of Dharma with the deers on the building and other sacred ornaments.
puis
And then in 1959, until then, all his activity was in Tibet. And in 1959, when he was 40 years old, after the events that took place in Tibet, he was obliged to leave Tibet and to flee and to go to Mustang, passing through the road at the north. And he was accompanied by Simok Rinpoche and Sedong Tulku.
The king of Muslim. So they became relative. That take up sola, Tini Lola, Kala Saja Gambatazola, Tini Gesurdan, Gelon, Dubiatan, Tini Duaga Jeta, Jisum Chalelana, Tini Yarneatan, Gayetan, Tin Kala Sojon Dautazera, the Tendawaga Jisum Chalenta, Lamdetan, that and so better, Chögyé, Chawa Jachambot and the Nangwine Saras.
et donc quand il
So when he arrived in Mustang, well, he was residing in the palace of Mustang. He presided over ordination ceremonies of monks, fully ordained monks and novices in Sakya monasteries, and he gave many teachings on the three foundations of Vinaya and the different practices linked to Vinaya. And also teachings on the path and the fruit and many others. And it's also said that that he became very close with the king of Mustang. And I think they ended up being part of the same family. The sister of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche married the king of Mustang of the time, so there was a very close relationship.
Tini tiki jela, tini indi karasara jilo chikdong gubja, tini kala tuju renga tewala, kala Sri Lanka la, tini kala jalji, kala indi international kaji gindyungi tsoba yara, tiki kala tsoba la pevne, tini kala indi jawarambuchi kusabchine kompewa insares, kusabchine.
Ensuite, en 19...
In 1965, he went to Sri Lanka, where he represented His Holiness the Dalai Lama at an international conference of the monastic community. And also from this time, he started to hold a post as Secretary of Religious Affairs in the Tibetan government.
Limbunilla, Kalawara, and such a people in Sadas. Limbunilla, such a people in the Casola, Limbunilla, the Conge, the Densa, the Gombat and the Chatawa in Sadas.
Ensuite, le roi du Mustang, donc avec qui il avait
with whom he had a very good connection, a very good relationship, asked the king of Nepal to offer some land to Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. So this enabled Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche in 1976 to establish his seat in Lumbini and to found the monastery that became known as Tashi Rapten Ling in Lumbini.
également.
And also in 1983, he received another piece of land from the 41st Sakya Gongma Trichen. And so this land was located, and which is still located, southwest of the Budnath Stupa. And here he founded the Temple of Maitreya.
Chögyé Legung Dhongtsang Nane Yugdewe Kapsula, Tine Tedo Kapsula, Tine Kalaware, Kajao Rinpoche, Tata Konsa Jamgun, Kunten Chujiba, Chimbo Konge, Tine Lama Tonkapa Chimboge, Norin Chimoge, Chening, Yamle, Nango Gong do Kasula, Tine Mixeg and Horin Chimote, that Choshin and Chigobaina. Doring, Dojing, Wanshu, Kalawati, Dojing, Wanshin, the never top Google uses. That in the top Google do Gone, Tanti, Kalasusan, Shugos at the Zion do Casola, Tada, Conte, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, Kunduni Shugosna, Lama singing the Demba, Zignet, Kunduni Shuba instead.
That in 1963, and for seven years after, Trichen Rinpoche served as General Secretary of the Department of Religious Affairs in Dharamsala. And when he was in Dharamsala, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama wished to study and teach the Nyangkrim Chenmo, the treatise on the different stages of the Tantras from the great master Tsongkhapa. But for this, he had to receive the great empowerment of Vajradhatu. So Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche gave him this this great empowerment to the 14th Dalai Lama, the empowerment of Vajradhatu. And so the 14th Dalai Lama also received from him different explanations, in particular on the path and the fruit of the Sakyapa lineage. Of the Sakyapa lineage, yeah.
Oui, on peut.
We can notice that to ask for such empowerments to a master, the master must really be endowed with very eminent qualities. It really has to be an eminent master. So the fact that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the 14th Dalai Lama, requested this transmission from Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche really shows the quality of this master.
Et donc,
and then as Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche conferred this great empowerment of Vajradhatu to His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, and also transmitted explanations on the path and the fruit and many teachings from the Sakya tradition. Due to this, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche became a root master of the Dalai Lama.
ensuite, donc,
And then around the same time, closer to 1969, His Holiness, the 41st Sakya Kogma, went to Lumbini to visit Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, because he had asked Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche to transmit the Gyude Kuntu, the collection of all the tantras.
Et donc,
so His Holiness the 41st Sakya Gongma Rinpoche asked him to transmit the collection of all the tantras. And when the request was made, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche remembered a prediction that the 16th Karmapa had made to him, Rangjung Rigpé Dorjé. He had indeed predicted that the 41st Sakya Gongma, Sakya Trinzin, would ask him for this transmission of the Gyude Kuntu. So he remembered at that time. He remembered this prediction, this prophecy. So he knew that the opportune moment had come, as the 16th Karmapa had predicted. And this transmission took place between 1969 and 1972 over a period of 3 years. Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche transmitted the collection of all the tantras to the 41st Sakya Gongma and to other Rinpoches and people present at the time.
Également,
And then in 1982, he gave the explanations given from master to disciple on the path and the fruit and other instructions to Sakya Kumar Rinpoche and to a large number of people from his entourage.
un peu plus tard.
And then a little later, I'm not sure the exact date, but upon the request of two Gelug masters, Kirti Rinpoche and Zopa Rinpoche, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche gave many major empowerments from the Gyude Kuntu, the collection of all tantras. And at that time, I was very fortunate to receive many empowerments and instructions from him.
Et je me souviens.
And I remember that at this time of this transmission, there were many great masters present from all lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, Nyingma, etc.
Donc, à l'époque.
And so at the time, I was very young. I was quite small. So I had gone to India to receive these transmissions. And I was seated not far from Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. And on his table, there were always lots of things, texts and offerings and food. There were always lots of things on the table. And I remember I was really little. I remember that every time there was something on the table, he would take it and give it to me. Everything that he could see on the table, he took and he gave it to me.
Alors, ça m'est arrivé à plusieurs reprises donc de me rendre en Inde comme ça pour recevoir des transmissions, notamment donc de Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. Et à chaque fois que j'y retournais, j'étais un peu effrayée parce que à chaque fois que Trichen Rinpoche faisait cela, qu'il me donnait ce qu'il y avait sur sa table, il y avait toujours son intendant. Il avait un intendant qui était un peu effrayant et qui me regardait avec des gros yeux, parce que je n'étais pas censée recevoir ce qui était sur la table de Trichen Rinpoche. Donc j'avais un peu peur d'y aller au final.
It's like I feel hesitant to go because of the attendant.
Du coup.
So after that, I was I kind of hesitated about going. I was a little scared.
nāngshīng rēs, tā kāla wā rē, tē Shāma Rinpoche kē yā, tā kāla wā rē, sōwa tāp nē, tēne kāla wā rē, tēne conference lē pē wā rās. Tē tū kā sō rē, tēne tā ngā rāng sō Karmapa, tā chūdhūn pā, tā yā dō jē khōng lā, tēne rūp tā kundu kē tē wāng tē sō chāsāng pē wā yīnsā rēs.
Et donc,
Then, as we know, upon Shamapar's request, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche came to France, and he transmitted the Druptap Kuntu, the collection of all the sadhanas, to His Holiness the 17th Karmapa Kagyu Dorjé. And so this was upon Shamapar's request.
Kongi zimlam nala, tine tachata kalawada Karmapa Rigpé Dorjé, tine kalawada shingla mape kausula, shingla mape samtewala, tine kongi kala zimlam la, tine Karmapa Rigpé Dorjé, chögyé namne tos ndo chobodawa nangnen tindes kalawada njeba insares. Tende njeba tiki jela kong kalawada Karmapa Rigpé Dorjé shingla pebata. Tine Karmapa tata tine nimachi yang kong Karmapa tata de payugin chodenla tine chodenla tine chögyé namne kora la pebdewan dawa tende yang tine kalawa zigne teka usole chandang pe yabu yaban dawa tende zikwa insares. Ta tido samote tine kala tiki zingundu kasol tiki tusolara kartu kara tine Karmapa tata taya doje kaji kubar yang tine kongi chala njorban dawa tende ge ta loju tine kalawara de kalawara de kuzi Shāma Rinpoche la tende yang kongi te ya shuba insares. Bayun choden la kora jab. Bayun choden charon kasha boda nat ya. Boda nat so like that he saw like Karmapa is making kora with a full ordained monk cloth.
et donc,
Also, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche just before the 16th Karmapa, Rangjung Rigpé Dorjé went into parinirvana, the Karmapa appeared to him in a dream. The Karmapa appeared in a dream to Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche's dream. The Karmapa seemed very, very tired, very weak. And a few hours or days after, the 16th Karmapa went into parinirvana. And a little after that, sometime after that, he dreamt, Chögyé Trichen again had another dream, and he dreamt that the 16th Karmapa, Rangjung Rigpé Dorjé, appeared again, but this time he was shining. He was in his monastic robes. He was radiant, and he was turning around the stupa Bodhnath, circumambulating doing kora around the Bodhnath stupa. And at the time of this dream, there is a monk who brought to him a photograph of the 17th Karmapa, Trinité Kagyu Dorjé, as a child, and telling him that this young child who lives near Lhasa says he is the Karmapa.
kalawara zeba dan tülen dawa tendes chidan sheba yana tine da chidan chuju riksuma cheba tsangma dan kalawara tine zeba tambo yodeba jirade yores kongen zeba tülen sheba yana chuju riksuma cheba ngarang sode saja nyingma kaju gelu tsangma la tine kalawara kongen loma meba tine mayimba tsangma ge tine tsangma ge laman dawa tine kon chade yoba insares.
Ce que j'ai oublié de dire avant.
What I forgot to say earlier, when Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche had this dream about the 16th Karmapa, who was in his monastic robes, was radiant, this monk came with this picture of the young Karmapa. And at that moment, he recognized in these signs that the photo that was shown to him was the Karmapa. And so he went to Karmapa and offered a prophecy regarding the reincarnation of the Karmapa, the 17th Karmapa, Chögyé Dorjé. So as we can see, he gave empowerments, explanations, teachings, to instructions to a very large number of disciples across the world without making any distinction between lineages. All these practitioners, no distinction of lineage, no partiality, they became his disciples, either directly or indirectly. So today, when we're trying to establish the authenticity of many empowerments and transmissions, it's often the source is often Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche. And this is the reason why he is considered as the Lama of all Lamas, the Lama of all.
제간도도 가두이나야 지 칼라워레 툭냠바르 미자바 밍아완다고 텐데 레디요레스 namju. So in like generally when we are going to see him, because like usually that we say the quality of the Buddha, yeah? Buddha will always on meditating, because we say 툭냠바르 미자바 밍아와테 상제기 연된다고 텐데 시기요라스 근데 칼라워랑 하나서 때 치수라 제수라 뭐 제간도도 가서라 삼삼가랑서 가면도 된다 슈그로 가면도 깨져야 슈도 가서라 삼삼 칼라 렌당게라스 삼삼 홉스카란데 칼라 은카 죽도 그래서 so he will stay like that, no?
De façon générale,
generally speaking, when we talk about the qualities of a Buddha, the qualities of a Buddha is to be able to constantly stay in meditative absorption. And on several occasions, when I went to India to visit Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, His Eminence Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, during discussions with him, he was there. There were other people around. It's happened on several occasions that we had the impression that he was completely absorbed. We talked with him, but we really had, and then suddenly he would absorb into meditation. It was very easy, very natural.
근데 배잔다고단 근데 그 대화티도 가서 렌따따따다 근데 숨고랬어. 네, 레몬 숨도 삼삼 하우스 간데 저도 그랬어. 근데 지단 따지단 칼라워데 가도 있나야 지 칼라워데 냠장 가는 칼라워데 지 검도 냠낸다고 가는 니 대반다고 근데 여버렸어.
Donc il était vraiment capable.
So he was really able to stay in meditative absorption whenever he wished. Whenever he wished. Yeah. Also, another anecdote: when he was teaching, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche was able to teach for hours and hours and hours, over and over, without stopping. He was completely focused, completely absorbed in what he was transmitting and what he was doing.
진바야 망보지 이제 뉴 유주레스 가시게 되니 그래서 가시 텐데 I think they must have also experienced the same also.
Peut-être que certains d'entre
Maybe some of you have attended teachings of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, so maybe you experience the same thing.
Ensuite, donc la
And so the last part of his life, in 2007, he passed into parinirvana.
Et il est dit que alors qu'il
It's said that as he was passing into parinirvana, he stayed in Tukdam for 16 days.
Like retreat center, no single pay inside this. That they ma didn't call Chamjin Lagala, then they showed them a show on the Gasolatni, the Gasolatni, Namgalan Share, Javichu Kurpu, and out that there's someone talked and someone didn't Mambo Chumbo inside this.
et donc quand il
And then when he passed into parinirvana, Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche was in his retreat center. And at the end of his Tukdam, after the 16 days of Tukdam, his precious body was taken to the Maitreya temple in Bodhnath. And that day, the day his body was carried to Bodhnath, the sky was particularly light, clear. And there were many favorable auspicious signs that appeared.
et donc
And so those who were present were deeply inspired, deeply touched to see these signs. When the body of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche was being carried into the temple, then there was the cremation. And a few days after the cremation of his body, it snowed, as it had never snowed for 60 years, apparently. And like very large snowflakes that looked like flowers, and it was like a rain of flowers coming from the sky, and it only reinforced the confidence of those who were present at the time.
et donc
And so the day of the cremation ceremony was offered to Trichen Rinpoche. And after the cremation, there were innumerable relics that were found in the cremation stupa, and also the heart, the tongue, and the eyes of Trichen Rinpoche were intact, even after the cremation. So these days were filled with innumerable feats and prodigies like this.
통용조 가시데 배전하는 지인조 뜻도라고 니 두두징이 시바레스 지당 하는 속에 산지 뜻도당 전주 셈바 침보 등서 그 연된데 어서게 가서 주나야 가서 람나야 데 칼로르데 도야 요마레스 도야 메주 텐데 연디 여도바레스 되나는 딱 다다베나 칼조지 트진 뭐진도 코이는 공거 연된데 네게 신기에 말아서 망치와지 네 신조데 라바에는 단도야 도구 말았어. 근데 연도 가서래 배 연된 친구 연도 근데 칼라오래 하나 속에 담아 주타야 요 말았어.
Donc ce que j'ai
So what I shared with you on the life of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche comes from what I observed, what I read in different texts that speak about him. But what is sure is that when we talk about the qualities of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it is impossible to name them all. It's impossible to name all these qualities because they're infinite. We can't name them all. So in the case of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, he was endowed with an inexpressible number of qualities, an inconceivable number of qualities. There were a few that I was able to observe, very, very few compared to the immensity of all his qualities. But the ones I observed, I tried to express here. But even the fact of expressing them is reductionist. So if we really wanted to express all the qualities of such an immense master, it would have no end, because his qualities are so inconceivable that they are inexpressible.
자 남과랑 푸르도 가서라 남과 존에 거마 밥이 말했어. 남과 존에 뭐 밥이 말했어. So when the birds fly on the sky, so it will not like a landing because the sky is end, sky is finished. So it's similar like kaldi umanjubona sungayore 다다다 접제트지 럼보지 연된 존에 나도 삼샤야 말았어. ngaran soge juemedo shemedo ne ngaran sindiga samshaya res.
Donc il est dit dans le
So it said in the Madhyamaka Avatara that when a bird flies into the sky, into space, if it waits to touch the limits of space before coming back down, it will never happen because there's no limit to space. The bird will continue to rise. So for the qualities of Chögyé Trichen Rinpoche, it's kind of the same thing. You could express them we would never be able to reach, we would never reach the end of expressing his qualities, because his qualities are, the number is inconceivable. So as we can't reach the end, we're going to stop here.
Donc je vais
So I'm going to recite a prayer, and we can stop.
제와 군도 양다 라마다 담에 주제 발라 랑주제 사다 람제 연대라고는 도진 청계 공부율도 보이쇼. Thank you everybody.
Merci à tous.
다단 날렌다라든 자가근 날렌다도 말아서 별라 다다데 군신 롱된 춤보게 차답지 위기 초라 요래 텔 날렌다 민직바르마도 인죽하가다스.
Donc il y a eu une question dans la salle pour
Question for those who are online and who can't hear. It's when we speak about Nalendra Monastery, is it a monastery that is in Tibet? Yeah, the answer is yes. It's a monastery that's in Tibet. It's not the Nalanda from in India. It's the Nalendra monastery in Tibet. It's in northeast of Lhasa, and it was the seat of the great master Ramdar Sinjak Enrique.
Les amis, il va falloir ranger les tablettes et les carrés.